The Joe Rogan Experience.
When I worked for, one of these companies, they told me to side with the audience. We talked about it last time I was here.
Mm-hmm.
They wanted me to create a narrative that the audience agreed with because we were there to serve them.
What was the narrative?
Young progressives, whatever they say. So social justice.
So whatever young progressives say, you want to side with that.
And I told him, I asked, are you saying that if there's a factual news story that would be upsetting to our audience, we won't cover it? He said, I think that's fair, yeah.
What was it that AOC said recently, that people shouldn't go back to work? That they should
revolt, like they should protest, like not go back to work.
That to me was one of the craziest things I've ever heard a politician say. Like, if anything, we need to get the goddamn economy back on track.
I wonder if she's going to lose in her primary. She's going up against a woman named Michelle Caruso Cabrera, who is a moderate, who actually sounds very reasonable. And it kind of breaks my heart a bit because I remember how Democrats used to be. Like, you can look at the things she talks about, and she's a very reasonable, like, she's got like a book. She was an anchor for some, I think for like CNBC or something. And she comes off like, I don't know, kind of like maybe you or me, just how what used to be left before they became radical activists for social justice.
Why do you think they went that way? Why do you think everything
social
went so...
media, man.
You think so?
Yeah, so
yeah.
There's a couple different theories I have on it. Conservatives are less likely to be online in a lot of areas of the country. They have weaker internet.
But they're so active online.
They dominate for sure, and that's one of the reasons they're like, they get wiped out a lot. But you look at
what do you mean? You're talking about conservatives?
Yeah. Conservatives getting banned a whole lot because they're very active. They do a lot of memes. But I think
so. How are you saying that they're less likely to have good internet?
Rural towns have really bad internet.
But so it's good enough to be able to post on Twitter. Like, what do you mean?
No, yes.
They have phones.
But if you've got dial-up in the middle of the country, you're not posting a video or a photo.
Yeah, but
you're
doing
watching
it on your phone.
You are watching.
Dial-up.
Yeah, that's true.
Everyone's doing it through their phones.
That's a good point. What I think is that you've got a lot of older people that are conservative, a lot of younger people that are liberal. And there's issues there with how people interact online.
Mm-hmm.
So my assumptions, my opinions, things I've read, older people more likely to just follow and read. Younger people more likely to engage. Most people not likely to engage at all. It's something I think like 2% of the country is actually active on Twitter.
Yeah. But
you end up with internal biases at the social media companies. Who is authoritative and who isn't?
Echo chambers.
So a really good example is like BuzzFeed News wrote a story that the Wuhan biolab leak theory is a right-wing, popular right-wing theory. Trump supporters are pushing it.
And here's why it's wrong.
But CNN ran multiple segments about this. And so when you have digital media framing things as always, like you ever wonder why they never say left-wing? Like in the media, they'll say conservatives did X. They never say liberals did X because they view themselves as those people, right? So you end up with social media companies that view that kind of content as authoritative, left-leaning. You end up with left-wing activists and acceptable marketability. There was a study done where they tracked essentially like it's a visualization of location for various aspects of the internet. Conservatives are in this bubble, liberals in this bubble. Marketing, digital marketing companies overlapped with resistance Twitter, anti-Trump. So what ends up happening is big marketing firms based in New York City, based in Los Angeles, very urban areas, much more likely to be blue, have a blue perspective. They run commercials based on a left-wing perspective. Politicians see what the television is saying, they see what the websites are saying, and they say, this is what America wants. It's not. It's what the hyperactive 2% of Twitter wants. So they fall into that trap where they believe all this stuff. The reason Ocasio-Cortez got elected, she won, I think, she got 17,000 votes in a district of 750,000. Like, that's not winning a real election. But it was an exploit. It was exploiting the system. So you end up with someone who has views that don't represent the overwhelming majority of this country in a very high-profile position, influencing Nancy Pelosi. And one of the reasons they think they even went forward with impeachment was because Ocasio-Cortez gave a statement where she said it was a bigger scandal that the Democrats would not impeach Trump. Next thing we know, Nancy Pelosi hops on board with the idea, and that blew up in their face. Trump ends up seeing his approval rating go up. He raises a ton of money.
It would be really interesting if what did him in was the Lysol shit.
Oh, that was bad for him, though, yeah. But I don't think
imagine?
So. Yeah, I don't think it'll be it.
What do you think is going to happen?
In November, as of right now, the panic factor could be good for Trump. The fact that we're in a crisis may mean people are desperate for security.
And they don't want to take a chance.
They don't want to take any chances,
right.
And Trump is a bully. Like, I don't mean that necessarily as like, to the Trump supporters get mad. What I mean is like he pushes people around. And a lot of people like that about him, that he yells at the press. Mm-hmm. What a lot of people on the left don't get is when he yelled at that CNN guy, you're a nasty reporter, his base was clapping, standing up saying, thank you for finally calling these people out.
Right.
It was a good thing. You take that attitude next to Biden. Do you think Biden's going to make anybody feel safe? Nah, man, I don't think so. So the argument I've put forward is, look, man, I'm a moderate person. My politics have always been left-leaning, pro-choice, progressive tax, government programs, all this good stuff. Grew up in a city. But I'm not super far left. I need an argument from you. Donald Trump has come forward with the economy was booming, lowest unemployment in 50 years, best numbers of our lives up until the pandemic. He instituted a travel ban that the Democrats are even agreeing with now at this point. If you want to convince me to vote for you, and many people like me, I think you got to give me an argument as to why Biden is better, but they're not. They're saying, stay alive, Joe Biden. We just don't like Trump. But they're really doing that.
It's a good point. And I think if the economy does manage to show some signs of resurgence around November, towards October and September, if he has some sort of a real rock solid plan and he can show you where it's going, this is what we're planning on doing. We're going to have this by that and that by this. And then, by the way, Joe Biden is not going to get better. His cognitive decline is going to increase, and it could drop right off of a fucking cliff. It might come around to where November is, where the gaffes are constant, and they pull him off of the public eye, and they never show him.
If the Democrats want to win, they'll run Michelle Obama.
We might have a fucking CGI Joe Biden with some. I'm not kidding.
Yeah,
where he does it from some sort of a remote location, and they CGI the shit out of his face.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. There's some net positives Trump could look at in terms of the pandemic. Worry, people trust him. His approval rating was going up when they were televising his press briefings. Mm-hmm. As soon as they stopped doing that, his approval rating started going back down. So when people hear what he was saying, they liked it. But the other big factor is if this persists beyond the election, Joe Biden will never debate him. And we see this in the press right now. Everyone keeps saying it. The longer Joe Biden is hidden, the better his campaign is doing, because people can't see him struggling to speak.
They're just going against Trump.
Mail-in voting.
I agree with you about Michelle Obama, but I don't think she really wants to run.
Well, I'm not sure she would either, but I'm saying I think they would win if they ran her.
They probably would.
Mail-in voting, I think, will be the downfall of Republicans. If mail-in voting does get pushed through, Nancy Pelosi, I believe she said she wants to have mail-in voting confirmed the next stimulus package. If the lockdown persists beyond November, and mail-in voting is the go-to way, the challenge, you see a bunch of Republicans saying that mail-in voting could lead to fraud, and it can, right? If somebody's mom is old and just not paying attention and you fill it out for her. But the bigger issue I see for Republicans is that uninitiated and uninterested people will be voted for. And that means in big urban areas, you'll have a mom and a dad telling their kids who normally don't care to vote, just fill it out, just vote for the guy. And that could potentially hurt.
I think the real concern is in the counting. That's the concern about in terms of fraud.
Right. Fraud is – so the Republicans' main concern is fraud, that someone's going to take their kid's packet and just fill it out for them.
Right.
But I don't think
not just that, also in how it's counted.
Right. Tracking them. They all go in the mailbox and the post office is all a mess. I agree with all that.
Yeah.
I think you don't need to go so far as to assume someone's going to snatch up all the ballots. It's possible. And replace them. I think that's a bit too much for me. I just think right now we know the youth vote swings left, and they don't care about voting. You put the ballot in their house.
I don't think they care about voting.
They don't. They didn't turn out for Bernie. They did not turn out. They turned out in some areas, but they didn't turn out. So you get this very active base online ranting about what they want. They don't actually go out for it. Put the ballot in their pocket, send it to their mailbox, and their mom says, there it is, fill it out. They're going to do it. And so that's going to make sure the people who normally aren't bothered to go vote will go vote.